I've been on the force long enough to know what fatigue does to a man. Long shifts, cold coffee, hours of silence broken only by the hiss of the radio. That'll play tricks on your eyes. I used to laugh at rookies who swore they saw shapes on the shoulder or swore headlights trailed them that weren't there. I'd tell them, "You're just tired. Shake it off." But that was before I started driving Unit 12 down Route 7 at night, before I saw what I saw in the rear view. I remember the first night clearly because nothing else happened. Midnight patrol, 2-lane highway stretched flat as a ruler, fog rolling in patches like cigarette smoke. The cruiser's dash lights hummed soft green, and the cabin smelled faintly of leather and whatever chemical they use when they clean the seats. I reached up to adjust the mirror, and for a split second, I froze. There was someone in the back seat. Just a shadow, maybe, but the shape was there. Broad shoulders, head tilted slightly forward like he was studying me. My stomach dropped. I braked hard, swung the spotlight into the back window. Nothing. Empty vinyl bench, clean as always. I told myself it was fatigue, nothing more. The next night, though, I wasn't alone. Officer Gina Torres was riding with me, still fresh on the job, eager in that way rookies are before the weight of this line of work settles on them. She was quiet most of the drive, jotting notes in her pad. Around 1:15 a.m., I caught sight of it again. The figure, clearer this time. Male, maybe mid-20s, wearing a shirt so stained across the chest it looked black in the dashlight. His eyes sunken, like the sockets had given up holding them. I gripped the wheel tight, pulse hammering, and Gina noticed. "You good, Frank?" she asked. I didn't answer. When I finally forced myself to look back, the seat was empty. I kept it to myself, but she knew something was off. A week later, she asked me straight out, "Why do you keep checking the mirror like that?" I shrugged, said it was habit. But that wasn't the truth. Every night, same stretch of Route 7, same hour, the passenger returned, always silent, always watching. It ate at me enough that I went digging. After shift one morning, I stopped at Eddie Kramer's bar, a place I know cops weren't supposed to hang around off-duty but did anyway. Eddie poured me a rye without asking. "You look like hell, Frank." I told him about the car, careful not to sound crazy. He gave me this long stare, then leaned in. "You know what they say about Unit 12, right? That's the car they used in the Bailey stop. Guy got shot, unarmed. Whole thing got swept under the rug. Happened before you transferred in." He lowered his voice. "They say he died in the back seat." I didn't want to believe him, but the name stuck with me. Bailey. Later in the records room, I found the file buried deep. Devin Bailey, 26 years old, stopped on suspicion, ended with 3 rounds in his chest. Officer's statement claimed he reached for something. No weapon ever found. The cruiser logged to the incident? Unit 12, my car. When I brought it up to Captain Ross Wilkins, he shut me down fast. "Mallory, you've been on edge. Don't drag up old ghosts. You need rest, not conspiracy theories." His eyes were hard, warning me to drop it. But I couldn't. The sightings got worse. Sometimes the mirror would catch him breathing, chest rising slow beneath that ruined shirt, though I knew damn well there was no body there. One night Gina saw me flinch and glanced back herself. Her face went pale. "Frank," she whispered, "there's no one—" She didn't finish, but I could tell from her eyes she'd seen something too. After that, she asked to be reassigned. Out of desperation, I asked Father Bernard Wills, the parish priest, to ride along. I told him enough to get him curious, though I left out the details. We drove the stretch slow, windows down, the night air damp with the smell of wet asphalt. The rear view flickered again around 12:40. Bailey again, staring, lips parted like he wanted to speak but couldn't. Bernard began muttering Latin under his breath, the rhythm steady. But then his voice faltered. He looked down at his prayer book, hands trembling. "And I can't," he whispered.
almost to himself. He wouldn't finish the blessing. I'd never seen a man of faith look so defeated. It's been months now. Every night I drive that stretch. Bailey rides with me. He doesn't move, doesn't blink, just sits in silence until the highway ends. I've stopped telling anyone. They either don't believe me or they're too afraid to admit what they see. What gnaws at me isn't the fear, it's the question. Why me? Why this car? If justice he wants, why won't he speak? Some nights, when the radio is dead quiet and the fog seals us off from the world, I swear I can hear the faint sound of breathing behind me. Steady, human. And I know, without looking, that he's there. The thing I can't shake is this. Last week, when I signed the vehicle log, Unit 12's record showed the Bailey incident, but the entry date was wrong. It wasn't listed as years ago. It was stamped 3 days ahead, as if it hasn't happened yet. So tell me, how can a man haunt a car before he's even dead?
Hello, YouTube family. Thanks for watching. Big love to our subscribers. You keep this channel alive. Only about 20% of viewers are subscribed, so if you enjoy the chills, hit that subscribe button. It's quick, it helps a ton, and it means more stories coming your way. See you in the next one, if you dare.
I shouldn't be writing this down, but the case file doesn't tell the truth, and I can't carry it anymore. People keep asking why I won't go back to the house on Ash Lane, why I left a perfectly good lead hanging, why I wake up at 3 in the morning and check that the radio on my nightstand is switched off. I've told them I'm just tired, that homicide takes its toll. But the truth is, something happened in there. Something that has no place in a police report, and it's rotting in me like a splinter I can't dig out. It began with the calls. Dispatcher Molly Kent had been logging them for weeks, static-heavy 911 hang-ups that always traced to the same address, 118 Ash Lane. Molly swore up and down that in the last one, just before the line cut, she heard a child breathing. You have to understand, Molly's been at that desk 20 years. She doesn't invent things. Still, by the book, hang-ups without follow-up usually get logged and shelved. But she called me after her shift, personal line, voice shaking in a way I'd never heard. Laura, it was a boy. He said your name. That's when I decided to check it out myself. Ash Lane runs along the edge of town, where the streetlights thin out and the air smells faintly of wet leaves and creosote. I pulled up at 9:14 p.m., headlights brushing against a sagging 2-story with plywood nailed across most of the windows. Officer Dan Riker was already parked out front, leaning against his cruiser with his hands shoved deep in his jacket. "Looks like nothing," he muttered as I approached, eyes darting anywhere but the house. Nobody's been in there for years. George Abbott, the old neighbor, had already cornered him with stories about hearing a child crying from the attic at night. Dan laughed it off, but I could tell from the way his jaw clenched that he hadn't liked standing there listening. We went in together. The air inside was colder than outside, thick with the sour odor of wet plaster and mouse droppings. My flashlight beam caught strips of peeling wallpaper, a toppled chair, the dull glitter of broken glass. The silence pressed heavy, like the house itself was holding its breath. Each room felt smaller than the last, the walls swelling inward, or maybe that was just me. My boots scuffed across warped floorboards. At 9:37 p.m., my radio hissed to life, sudden and sharp. The voice that came through was faint, high and unmistakably young. Laura. Just my name, stretched thin by static. Dan heard it too. I saw the color drain from his face. He snapped his radio off and shook his head. "I'm done," he said, voice tight. He walked out and never looked back. Rule number 1 in this job: you never, ever clear a location alone if you don't have to. That's how people end up in body bags. But I stayed. Maybe because I couldn't stand the thought of leaving a child's voice unanswered, even if every part of me knew it shouldn't exist. Room by room, I kept searching. The kitchen smelled faintly of rust. The stove was still spotted with grease, as if someone had just cooked and left in a hurry. The upstairs hallway was lined with closed doors, each one seeming to hum with a different coldness. My notes say I opened the first one at 9:52, but I can't explain why the next entry in my notebook is timed 10:31, with no memory in between. The attic ladder was stiff, dust sifting down as I pulled it, my flashlight being cut through a slant of rafters, catching on a small object in the far corner, a plastic toy phone, the kind with a bright red receiver and a painted-on dial. The receiver lay off the hook. I remembered the absurdity of it, a toy connected to nothing, in a house long abandoned. Yet the radio on my belt crackled again, and the same child's voice whispered, "Don't leave me here." Later, Claire Jensen and records dug up the history. A family in that house, dead by murder-suicide in 1989. Parents, 2 daughters, 1 son. Only the son's body was never recovered. Police at the time searched the woods, dragged the creek, nothing. Case closed eventually. But the toy phone in the attic matched a photo from the old evidence file clear as day, right down to the chipped paint on the receiver. That photo was logged after the original investigation, proof that the toy had been taken into evidence and stored. Yet I had seen it, touched it, in that attic decades later. No one believes me. Dan refuses to talk about that night at all. Molly won't answer when I bring up the calls. She just stares at her desk, lips pressed tight. George Abbott still swears he hears crying at odd hours, though he admits no one else does. The house has been boarded up again, case marked inactive. But sometimes on my night shifts, when the radio goes quiet, I hear it faint under the static, a whisper so soft it feels like breath against my ear. Laura. I don't switch the channel anymore. I don't answer. I just sit there, knowing it will come again, waiting for the night it says something new. Tell me, if a child asks you not to leave him in the dark, how many times can you walk away before the house remembers your name too?
I don't know if I'll ever send this. Maybe I just need to see the words on the page, to put them somewhere outside my head. My name is Timothy Hale, 33 years old, patrol officer with the department, 11 years on the job. I used to think this career meant something. Protect, serve, make the city a little less dangerous. Now I count the shifts in cigarette burns on my dashboard and measure the silence of the radio like it's a pulse I'm waiting to stop. It was a Wednesday night, clear and cold. March, the kind of month where the streets feel like they're still thawing from winter. The call came at 23:46, commercial burglary alarm on 8th and Valley, back entrance tripped. Routine. My partner, Officer Daniel Kessler, and I had worked dozens just like it. I drove. He rode passenger. He always hummed under his breath, like he needed noise to fill the cabin. That night, he was humming some old country tune I didn't recognize. We cleared the perimeter first, flashlights cutting through the alley. No broken lock, no forced door. Dispatch asked for status. I keyed up. Unit 12 on scene, no sign of entry. Dan clicked his mic right after me, just habit. 2 quick clicks, like a heartbeat. Then it happened. Gunfire from the shadows near the dumpster, muzzle flash so bright it carved the night in half. I dropped behind the hood. Dan wasn't as lucky. He took it in the chest, 1, maybe 2 shots. I can't remember clearly. The sound of him hitting the pavement was heavier than the gunshots. I called it in. Backup, officer down. Voice so fast the dispatcher had to ask me to repeat. By the time I pressed my hand against his vest, he was already fading. Blood soaking through the Kevlar as though the fabric was paper. His last breath wasn't words, just a wet rattle. That's the official version. What came after doesn't fit in a report. A month later, they reassigned me to a new sector. Noop squad car, fresh paint, different unit number. I remember sliding into the driver's seat that first night, setting the radio to our frequency, engine idling steady. Then I heard it, a soft click on the mic. Not mine, not dispatch, just the sound of a button pressed and released. At first, I thought bad wiring. Every cop car in the fleet has quirks, sticky wipers, dying bulbs, rattling mounts. But then came the breathing. Low, slow, unmistakable. Like someone sitting right beside me, close enough that I could feel the fog of it on my ear. I killed the engine, stepped out, checked the trunk, checked under the seats. Nothing. Radio silent when I turned the key again. The next shift, same thing. Mic clicked. Breathing. It went on for weeks. Officer Randall Kreis pulled me aside after briefing and said, "Hale, no offense, but I'm not writing with you. I heard it too. Whoever's in that car with you, it ain't me." He walked off without another word, like even saying it out loud made him feel dirty. Sergeant Kelly Harmon tried to keep me grounded. "Tim, trauma does strange things. You need rest, time, counseling." She wanted me to see Dr. Caro, the department shrink. I went, sat in his office while he scribbled on his yellow pad, asking me if I believed in survivor's guilt. I told him guilt doesn't explain a microphone keying itself up. He just wrote more notes, eyes avoiding mine. The worst was when Officer Leah Morrison, the rookie, offered to ride with me. Brave, or maybe naive, she lasted half a shift. Around 01, radio dead, except for static. We both heard the click. Then that breathing. Her head whipped toward the back seat so fast she nearly twisted her neck. "Someone's here," she whispered. I tried to joke, say it was feedback, but she shook her head, eyes wide, and demanded to be dropped at the precinct. Never volunteered again. I kept logs, exact times of the interference. Sometimes 0014, sometimes 237. Never consistent. I pulled the dash cam audio. The mic would spike with a phantom transmission, breathing, almost a voice forming, but the moment I replayed it, the file corrupted. IT said maybe power surges, maybe storage error. They filed it under equipment anomaly. No one wanted to look too hard. But I couldn't stop looking. 2 months ago, I parked outside the strip mall where Dan was shot. I shut off the engine, lights out, just sitting there with the memory. The radio popped, hissed. Then, clear as ever, the voice came. Not static, not interference. Dan's voice. Strained, broken, exactly how it sounded in the seconds before he went still. And he said my name. Not once. Over and over. "Tim! Tim!" I froze. My throat locked. Then the radio screamed, feedback spiking so loud it felt like glass in my ears. Through it, words. His last ones, the ones I never heard that night. "You should have been faster." Silence after that. Engine off. Whole car felt colder, like someone opened every window to winter air. I drive alone now. Nobody asks to partner with me. Sometimes Sergeant Harmon gives me this look like she knows something's rotting inside me but can't put it in a report. Dr. Caro still tells me about guilt, about projection. Maybe he's right. But equipment doesn't breathe, and radios don't hold grudges. What I can't explain, what won't leave me, is that the mic only clicks when I'm behind the wheel. Other officers tested the same unit. Nothing. Dead air. It's as if whatever's in there is waiting for me, and only me. I don't believe in ghosts. I didn't, anyway. But I believe in that voice, and the way my partner's last words bleed through metal and wires night after night. The silence is worse now. It waits, longer each shift, before the click comes. Like it's building to something I won't be able to shut out. So if you're listening, if you've ever heard voices in the static, tell me I'm not alone. Leave a comment, share this story, because I can't carry it much longer by myself. See you in the next one, if you dare. And sometimes when I'm parked in the dark, I swear I see the passenger seat depress just slightly, like someone shifting their weight, settling in for the ride.